advising clients across the country. Here he is, your host, J. Christopher Boyd.
Welcome. This is Something More with Chris Boyd. I'm Chris Boyd, certified financial planner practitioner, and my office is Asset Management Resources. We're a registered investment advisor firm, and we have a show. It is called Something More. We call it Something More because we like to talk about not only those important dollar and cents issues, but also the quality of life issues that make the money matters matter. So thanks for being with us. I'm joined today by Jeff Perry. He is JD. He is our investment advisor representative in our Florida area.
We're laughing because JD has dual meanings. That's all.
If you listened last week,
yeah,
I think
that's all.
Heard a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So in any case, thanks for being with us. And by the way, if you didn't listen last week and you'd like to hear our shows, we post them as a podcast. You can always catch them wherever you like to listen to podcasts. I'm personally tend to do iTunes, whatever, Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
I'm Amazon Music.
Oh yeah.
And podcast and music. But
people
we're there too.
Yeah, we're there too. If you like listening right here on iHeart stations, you can get on the iHeart app as well, right. Wherever you listen to your podcast. And it's also available through our social media links or our website, amrfinancial.com. You can find us through a lot of ways. In any case, just to start us off, let you know, later this hour, we'll be talking with Mark Scala of the Cape and Islands United Way. They have a big event, their 25th best.
That's hard to believe. It's been going on forever that I remember. So 25 years, but not many events, signature events last. They usually kind of fizzle out or change. This one's got some staying power. It's
a lot of fun if you've ever been. What's interesting is they've been able to change it up and keep it fresh. And
new venue, right?
Yeah, last year they started a new venue. It's going back to that venue. It was a great location. The view was fabulous, and the food was terrific. So yeah, definitely.
I look forward to hearing from Mark.
Yeah, so we'll talk to Mark, and then later in the show, in the second hour, we'll also be talking with Kristen Mitchell-Hughes from the Cape Cod Chamber. But in the meantime, we've got plenty of other things to talk about. We will get to some financial discussions in just a moment. Before we do, Jeff, I thought on the lighter side, maybe touch on a couple of things. On the lighter side is June 3rd seems like a birthday day. Have you ever noticed that? There's a lot of people who have birthdays on June 3rd.
It's just one of those things.
I'm thinking like maybe it's Labor Day, like how many months before or something like that. But in any case,
what's 9 months before June?
Yeah, But in any case, June 3rd, that's actually my brother's birthday. So happy birthday, Keats, and to all those June 3rd babies. I noticed on my social media that there's like just a string of them.
Some days have so many, but it all balances out.
Anyway, just. One other lighter thing I wanted to ask you about. Do you watch Ted Lasso? You're not an Apple product guy, right? So
no, I'm not an Apple guy.
So you probably don't have Apple TV.
No, but I've seen all the
clips or whatever. Yeah,
all of the comments and emotion on social media about Ted Lasso.
The Ted Lasso series, I think, was kind of a pandemic pleasure. In the midst of the pandemic, when there was so much stress and anxiety, this show came out and was kind of a lighthearted release. And I think that's part of why there's so much affection for the show. That it had its final episode for people who don't follow the show, and it was a lot of fun. And they did it well. They tied things up nicely, and in any case, a lot of things went full circle, which was a lot of fun. In any case, you don't get. By the way, one of the few places where you get the return of the physical comedy of a spit take. How often do you get to enjoy comedic spit take? That's right.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, when they take a sip,
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
that was a something that happened quite frequently on there, but I thought it was funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of shows that are disappearing. We were just talking this past weekend when we watched the final episode of Mrs. Maisel.
Oh, haven't seen that yet. I haven't watched that last season.
5 season that just ended. Good ending,
Succession just ended as well.
right?
On HBO.
The Blacklist. I don't know if you're a
Oh,
fan of the Blacklist. That's
I
ending.
haven't. I know of it. Seems like the kind of show I would like, but I've never got into it. Yeah.
My wife's favorite show, This Is Us. A lot of shows are just ending this year, so we're like, what are we gonna watch? Guess we'll have to do some. I guess we'll
Try
have to
something
do some
new, huh?
exploring.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right. Try something different. I'll tell you what. Along those lines. So, I'm glad you went onto that. Like these other shows that sometimes it's interesting when the artists or I thought in the case of Ted Lasso, it didn't end because there was a lack of following. Succession, same kind of thing. They kind of felt like it had run its course, or there was there was reason to tie it up and go out on top in a sense. And I think a lot of times shows keep going and
a little too long.
Yeah. Jump the shark, so to speak, to make the reference to Happy Days in that example. But in any case, so it's kind of interesting that there's that artistic integrity, when that happens, and but at the same time, that's one of those shows I wish wasn't ending.
Yeah, even if we're not ready, right?
Yeah. Well, I was also thinking, along the lines of television shows and things. I noticed that last night I was playing a game on my computer as I was getting ready, relaxing and going to bed, or my iPad,
You're not supposed to do that before you go to bed, by the way.
I know, but I totally fell asleep doing it.
Okay.
But it started me thinking for this conversation today, do you have a ritual like that? Do you, I know a lot of people are into Wordle or Global or do a word search or something as part of their wind down. My wife tends to read before going to bed. Do you have any games or anything like that you enjoy, either for relaxation, or do you have any kind of a nighttime ritual that just kind of lulls you into your, okay, I'm ready for sleep mode?
The only signal or ritual is taking the dog out to do his final business of the day, and that's the sign. He actually
all right, time for bed.
He knows when the TV goes off, if it's late enough, like 10 or after, he gets up and goes to the door. Like, I'm ready.
Okay, it's this time, huh?
So that's the ritual. No,
that's pretty good training. Yeah.
Yeah. No specific things that you're talking about. No.
Do you have any games that you like to whether it's you ever do a word search or a crossword or anything? What's the
none? No games.
The number game.
No video games. No phone games. None of that.
No time for any of that.
I'm all business.
Yeah,
I'm just up late.
What's really important?
I'm checking my AMR email before I go to bed to make sure there's no client questions.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm reading the latest financial news, so I'm ready in the morning for you. I'm just all business.
You're on it. You are on it and paying attention. Well, that's probably
that. I'll tell you some more.
For what we probably want to talk about a little bit. We have 10 minutes or so before our guest arrives. Maybe
we should remind people.
Go ahead.
That we have an upcoming seminar, meaning in-person seminar. Point. So I think it's this coming week, right?
It is June 6th. Hard to believe that we're in June. I mean, just time's flown by, but here it is, June 6th, coming up this week. So that's Tuesday at 9 a.m., 9 to 11. We've got two just great speakers, presenters that going to be very educational, informative. If you haven't had the chance, we've talked about it over the last couple of weeks on the show, but if you hadn't heard us, sign up. Definitely. This is an educational program. It is, there's nothing's going to be sold. We're not pushing product or anything like that. This is really an educational opportunity. We have it for our clients. We're inviting our listeners to join us because I think it's really great information. Social Security and Medicare, two of these important building blocks for your retirement. It's an opportunity for our listeners to participate in this informative process where, there are a bunch of ages as we get closer to retirement. 60 if you're a widow, 62, 65 for Medicare, 67, roughly 66 and a half now to 67 as full retirement age for Social Security, 70, the maximum age before you can turn on Social Security. So these are all possible dates. And, naturally people think, well, should I turn on my Social Security? When? What's the right time? We had a couple of conversations about that this week, in fact, with clients. So it is a common challenge, and how to go about thinking about this, and what are some of the eligibilities? What if I'm widowed? What if I'm divorced? What if I've been an employee for the municipality? All kinds of dynamics that can factor into thinking about some common questions and challenges of, should I, what do I need to know when it comes to my Social Security or my Medicare? How does Medicare coverage work? What are the different types, A, B, C, and D? Should I do more of an HMO approach, or should I do more of an indemnity kind of an approach? What's the right answer for me? And how do I go about figuring that out? These are the kinds of things we're going to be explaining. Not me. I've got two great presenters who are going to be doing it. I'll basically be the MC that day. And the extent of the advertisement for AMR will essentially be, this is all important. And if you need to get it into the context of your financial plan, come visit us. We'll be happy to help you, that kind of thing. So take advantage of it.
Social Security is such a, not only for the folks who are in Social Security who are worried about all this political talk about cuts and all that, but for people who are approaching it, it's one of those things that when you're far away from, requesting benefits, signing up for these things, it seems like a real simple thing. But when you get closer and closer, I guess if you're 60 or above, maybe even in your late 50s, it's really time to zone in on what's going to be the best choice for you, depending on your circumstances. Lots of circumstances, a lot of what ifs, a lot of individual things there. But you really need to focus in, because this is a huge decision when you take it and when you sign up. And
one of the things that I think comes up a lot is the clarity around the idea that retirement date and the date you turn on your benefits don't necessarily have to be the same thing. A lot of times we'll say, well, maybe you should think about, in your case, waiting till 70,
right?
Turn on your benefits. Oh, I can't wait till 70 to retire. I really would like to retire
That's
sooner.
A good point.
Well, yeah, but that's not necessarily the same thing. Those are not the same. Well, how am I going to do my income? Well, sure, there's other ways we can draw from assets to meet your needs. Or whatever it might be, different circumstances, we can examine what those possibilities are. But
and anyway, if you're a couple, it may not be the same decision for each of you.
Both people, right? Good point. And different ages of people and all the rest of it. So anyway, look, if you're hearing this and thinking, well, gee, maybe there are a few things I could benefit from. Hopefully, you heard Marcia Mentel on our show a month or so ago, maybe a little longer. And she demonstrated that there's so many questions to be addressed when it comes to Social Security. It can be really helpful to get some of this information. Susan Flanagan is also going to be our other speaker on the topic of Medicare. And she's a wealth of information. I've heard both of these presenters present before. Both very knowledgeable and very helpful. So in any case, to register, just go to our website, amrfinancial.com. Probably the easiest way to do that. You can just go amrfinancial.com. And I think right on the front page, there's a way to register. If it's easier for you, just while you got your cell phone out, you can text us 508-915-3700. Again, that's 508-915-3700. You can just send a text saying seminar, registration, and let us know how many guests you want to bring with you. We're we still have room, but we do have the room filling up. So we don't want to, make it too crowded, but we would love to have you there. So we just want to keep track of how many people. We have, I don't know, somewhere around 35 people attending right now. I think we've got room for close to 50. So I think there's still room, but this is it. This is the last chance to register, really. So hope you will. In any case, thanks for bringing that up, Jeff. That's
yeah. Social Security's been on my mind quite a bit. We certainly didn't see it as part of the, debt reduction. I'm sorry, the debt ceiling. But it's an issue that's going to come up certainly in this presidential campaign that's already started. And
people are already asking me. I mean, I've had questions regularly. Just in the last week, someone saying, well, maybe I should turn on my Social Security now because I don't know. Are they going to be around? That kind of mindset, like what's going to happen down the road? And these are kind of different issues. And, I really, and I have confidence that Social Security will be around. But it's understandable why people have those kind of anxieties because of what they've been told about the trajectory of things, that there will be a shortfall unless we act. But I really do believe that Congress will act because there's just too many voters who are dependent on Social Security that they'll need to have this solved.
There was a poll recently released. I saw it on the CNBC website talking about the options, the changes that could be taken to shore up Social Security, make it last longer. And the headline is bipartisan support of these changes. Like the number one highest polling was to raise the Social Security payroll tax.
Yeah.
And it had 88% support among Democrats, 79% support among Republicans.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Reducing benefits for high earners. You raise the cap.
Like a means test kind of thing.
That's right. 86% of Democrats, 78% of Republicans think that's a good idea. And the third highest rated solution, if you will, mitigation, was gradually raising the retirement age. 76% of Democrats, 75% of Republicans. Oh, and there's one more, I'm sorry. Increasing the payroll tax, 78% of Democrats and 70% of Republicans. So, these are things that you and I have been talking about on the radio show from time to time, but it appears from that poll, and I think just talking to people,
there's broad bipartisan consensus that there are solutions, and it can be addressed.
Nobody likes higher taxes or lower benefits, but all these things, if you take them all together and do small pieces of each one,
it may be more manageable.
One would think you could come up with a deal that was at least acceptable to both parties.
Yeah, one that nobody likes, but everyone can vote on and get something done.
That's right.
Which was kind of an interesting. That brings us back to the debt ceiling. We're recording on Thursday, so things are evolving, and looks like we did have it pass the House. I was just thinking that when it comes to legislation, Jeff, it does seem like this might be the model of what's going to happen for legislative movement, where you have the middle start to be the way things get done, where both ends of the spectrum are not happy and vote against. But if you can get enough of that middle of people on both sides of the aisle, you might be able to actually move some legislative agenda.
Well, whether you like it or not, this is split government. So you can't, neither side can expect to get everything they want. And there's, compromise. Well, they say it's a good deal if nobody likes it, right?
Yeah.
So compromise is okay, especially when we have a split government, and especially we have issues like the debt ceiling, like Social Security, like some of these big issues, fiscal issues. We're going to have to compromise. And if we don't, we're just hurting ourselves, because these things have to be dealt with. These are not things you can ignore, and they're going to go away.
Well, apparently the Treasury Secretary says June 5th is our drop dead date. So we're coming up on that fast. And hopefully Senate moves things along, and we can get this resolved in advance of having a problem on June 5th. So
Yeah,
hopefully that right is that, it's unknown whether that is actual, literal, what you got a clock counting down. Okay. In any case, that being said, I thought your clock was for our show timing. Okay. I thought your clock was for the debt ceiling. Welcome back to the program. Thanks for being with us. I'm Chris Boyd. I'm here with Jeff Perry, both investment advisor representatives with Asset Management Resources. Our show, Something More, is a financial show. As you can tell, we have occasion to dive into other things as we have today. But we're back to talking about financial topics for the remainder of the show. And, if you are someone who finds personal finance intimidating at times, well, you probably, I don't know if you'd be listening to the show regularly, but hopefully you enjoy the show because we try to make it accessible and informative. But I would mention that Jeff has put together a great series of videos that are very informative and educational, with the intention of providing some personalized mentorship along the way, should you want to avail yourself of that. But our Something More mentoring program, you can get a lot of the information right off the web at our website, amrfinancial.com. So feel free to take advantage of that and benefit from it. Jeff, do you want to comment at all about the Something More mentoring? Well, since I brought it up.
Sure. So go to amrfinancial.com, go over to the services tab, and one of the drop down is Something More mentoring. And I think you have two options there. You mentioned the videos, Chris. We produce educational videos. Ultimately, we will have produced 12. We have produced 9 so far on every little subset of financial planning. We start with goal setting. We start with budgeting and cash flows, and we work through the issues of insurance and estate planning. And we just published video number 9, and that's the basics of investing. You and I did that video. That's our longest video. It's about an hour and a half, and anyone can watch these videos. It's not just for the people.
Most of them are shorter than that.
That's right. I think we dedicated more time to this one because it's a deeper subject than some of the others. So you can, for example, log on to the website, amrfinancial.com, go to Something More mentoring, and go near the bottom of the page. You can click any of those 9 videos so far and watch it as a service to the public, no obligation. And if you find that you'd like a personal mentor, someone to walk you through the steps of creating a comprehensive financial plan and answering your individual questions and being your accountability partner, we have a Something More mentoring program that you can sign up for. It's designed to be a year-long program where you go step by step, lesson by lesson, and build your own financial plan. Take care of issues that you have. Maybe you have debt issues. Maybe you have a complicated family estate, whatever it is. We give you personalized service to help you through that. And the idea is after a year of going through these lessons and this mentoring program, you should be able to be a much more informed investor, someone that can make calculated decisions, good decisions based on facts, not emotions. And it's not right for everyone, but if you're, you introduced it, Chris, as people who maybe struggle with their personal finance, or maybe people want to take it to the next level, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Check it out.
It's a great resource. And I would say too, for people who may say, well, I really don't want to become that engrossed in it myself. I'd just soon hire somebody. Well, that's always an option too. We have, we do offer the services of financial planning and portfolio management. So, if you want to get help in that sense, without having to become more fully informed, that's another way to go. We think it's generally good for, that whole Cy Sims kind of ism where our best consumer is an educated consumer.
Absolutely. You've heard me say this, and our listeners have too. I think a good financial planner is one that has the heart of a teacher. Certainly some clients just say, will you take care of this for me? But and we serve them very well. But I think the best client, the most successful clients, are the ones that are interested in learning a little bit about what we're saying, learning about the subjects, and being a participant in those decisions that are made, and having real goals, having an accountability partner. All these things lead you to likely to have more financial success, and not only success in monetary terms, right, but also success in being at peace with your plan, understanding your plan, and knowing that you have the protections and strategies in place to get you to where you want to end up.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's probably a good tie-in to our next topic. When we talk about the question, you pointed out a great article from Schwab about, understanding how much you can withdraw from your portfolio and how to go about thinking about it. Just before we jump into that, I just want to one more time remind everyone, we talked about it in the last hour, but worth reminding our listeners that if you are someone who's nearing retirement and giving thought to preparing for that, we have a great talk that we are doing in person. It's a seminar. It's being held in Hyannis on Tuesday, June 6th at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. It is a talk that we have two guest speakers coming to present for. One, an expert on Social Security, the other, an expert on Medicare. And we want to give you some opportunity to get an understanding of how these programs work. They're both really foundational components of one's retirement features. So, obviously, don't want to solely rely on Social Security as your sole source of income or anything like that. Right. But as you're getting close to the ages where these might be considerations for when to turn them on for people maybe nearing 60 or in their 60s, this would be a great talk for you to understand how do these programs work, what are my choices within them, and how do I go about undertaking all that. You'll learn a lot. It's educational. There's no sales pitch other than we're going to invite people to investigate doing a financial plan with us should they want to. Right. So in any case, and that's about as much as you're going to get on the sales pitch there. Just if you want to come see us. So in any case, let's jump into this topic that I think. Oh, and by the way, if you want to register for that seminar, it does require a registration. You can go to our website, amrfinancial.com. You can send us a text very simply at 508-915-3700. When you text, let us know how many people in your party will be joining us if you're coming alone or you're bringing a spouse or a friend or whatever it might be, just so we have the right amount of seating available. It's at Courtyard Marriott in Hyannis, which is right next to the Cape Cod Mall, so easy to find, and really some pivotal questions about retirement that we'll be addressing there. So hope you can join us, and if it's easier, you can give us a call after the show at 508-771-8900 and leave a message. Okay. So
it's a perfect companion subject to what we're going to talk about. It's when to take your Social Security is directly related to how much you're withdrawing from your investment portfolio. And that's I've been surprised, I've been with you for a little bit more than 2 years at Asset Management Resources, and I had my perceptions about the challenges and the questions and the business of financial planning and the things that our clients deal with. But one of the biggest surprises to me is people who have built wealth, built through their 401k, their IRAs, they built wealth, they planned, and they get to retirement and they have this pool of money, say in a 401k or an IRA or wherever it is.
Yep.
And they just don't feel like they can take withdrawals at a level that sometimes that we suggest. It's that fear, which is, I get it. I mean, who wants to be older
and run out of money?
Who wants to turn 85 and have no money, right? No one, right? So
very true.
So people try to come up with plans and how much can I take from my retirement without it running out, and also without retiring with most of it. I mean, certainly some people are focused on legacy, but most people want to live their best life.
Yeah.
Comfortable, do things, travel, live a lifestyle that they'd like to, but they don't want to run out of money. And so there's the
they
4%.
perhaps live more meagerly than they need to, or they get more this very restrictive mindset of trying to preserve what they have. What part of that, Jeff, though, is we go through 30, 40 years of saving and investing in our work life,
Right.
and hearing about the importance of growing wealth and being ready for retirement and having enough. And then, the reality is people can live, 25, 30 years in retirement. And so there really is an understandable anxiety associated with this, but we're so focused, I think, for such a long time on trying to grow our assets that there's a real anxiety and reluctance to then be willing to draw from our investments and that wealth, because we've been ingrained that we need to keep growing it. So it's this transitional moment. There's lots of people that focus on this idea of transitioning to drawing out funds from your investments, and the idea of retirement income planning, or whatever they might call it. There's different names for it. I think oftentimes these tend to focus on annuity sales, and so it creates some, maybe skepticism from the public, consumers about, is this, who am I dealing with? What's it about? We've been down this road about talking about fiduciaries and all that. But I do think a lot of times you hear code words about an income planning specialist, or, a retirement income, or, you're in a different phase, the growth phase. Now you're in the income phase of life, or whatever it is.
That's I don't know if you agree, but I'll say my opinion. That's a sales technique that's based on fear.
Yeah.
And that people, certain people who are not fiduciaries, who are selling a product, most often an annuity, are playing off that fear to lock somebody into an income stream that is guaranteed, certainly by an insurance company, but it's certainly substantially less than other options that are available to someone who's
oftentimes saved. I mean, you got to evaluate everything in its own context, and
sure,
it's more attractive to entertain an immediate annuity today than it would have been, in a different interest rate environment. But, by and large, I guess my point is that you have to be careful that a lot of times people will present themselves in a way to talk about this issue, but it can oftentimes really be a lead into a product sale, right, of a commission paying product. And again, I don't want to overstate it, Jeff. As much as we generally are reluctant to use annuities in many instances, I don't want to emphatically say
not an
that
absolute,
it's never
right,
appropriate or anything like that. I just think it's something you got to be very careful around, and the costs can be very high. And that's why people in our line of work, who are RIAs, typically are hesitant to use or encourage annuities to too great an extent, because there can be a lot of costs built into them. That being said, there are a lot of financial planners that do like the idea of a certain base level of income between your Social Security pension or an immediate annuity that turns into like a pension kind of cash flow, that certain base expenses be covered by that. There's definitely a school of thought that advocates for that as a valid planning structure. And anyway, not to get lost in that, I think we want to go to this article and talk about one of the ways that most people think about how they should provide their.
Before we do, just one additional comment, if you don't mind. If you think an annuity might be appropriate for you, or if you've talked to somebody and they've given you some convincing arguments for, talk to someone who's not selling you the annuity.
Yeah.
Meaning, talk to a registered investment advisor, fiduciary, who doesn't have a horse in the race. There's no commission on advice, for example.
Right.
And if they agree, well, maybe that's a good idea. But don't, I have a surgeon friend of mine. I've said this on the air a couple of times. And he said to me once, when people get referred to him, they're going to have surgery. That's what he
Right.
does, right? And so
Right.
if you end up sitting before an annuity salesman getting financial advice, the advice is likely to buy an annuity. But if you're working with a fiduciary, such as Asset Management Resources, we don't get paid on a specific product that we sell. So our advice
No.
is in your best interest as a fiduciary, and it would be broader and more comprehensive advice than just a single product line that someone might be trying to sell you.
Yeah, and just to elaborate, as much as we tend to work with people in portfolio management as part of how we work with people, if someone has an interest in just getting a financial plan,
right,
or just wants some hourly counsel,
maybe a second opinion.
Yeah. Members of our team who are advisors can be that for you. We can provide that kind of advice, and it doesn't have to involve necessarily how we would, handle the money if we were involved, that kind of thing. If that's what you want to come for, you want that purely that second opinion, so to speak.
Well, geez, that's how I ended up. I mean, I
Yeah,
knew you certainly.
right.
We were friends and connected socially, but when Lisa and I were we had our own financial plan, and we thought it was a good plan.
Yeah,
and
it was.
Thank you. Yeah, but we were getting to that point where we may execute this plan, the second half of it, not just the accumulation phase. We came in for a second opinion, right?
That's right. That's right. And
So,
I mean, that's a good example of, as we, in that scenarios, it was just some time spent together, an analysis, review, kind of looked at things in a comprehensive way, but in the grand scheme of things said, well, there's a lot going on that we like here. And, it's not something that there's a sense of, you must change. There was, I don't remember all the observations. I think I pointed out an item or two that might be
very comprehensive,
a weak spot for you to be, tuned into.
Yep.
But not so much that there was there's more like there's multiple ways to deal with this. Have you, how are you thinking about it?
Yep.
And you had some plans as it related to it, but these were all those other ways you can deal with it, that kind of thing. On the whole, though, yeah. I think bottom line is just be careful when you deal with people who have a vested interest,
get that second opinion, and don't rely on anyone, not just in the annuity world, but don't rely on the advice of anyone who's trying to sell you something specific. Step back, get advice, make a decision that's based on objective advice and thought and deliberation, not on fear. And to this article, fear is that people are going to run out of money. So this article is focusing on a rule of 4%, which is kind of like it's been around a long time, meaning that I guess the premise is, if you're in a 50-50 type portfolio, meaning 50% in stock and 50% in bonds, that if you withdraw 4% on the first year of your retirement and make an annual adjustment for inflation, meaning a little bit more each year, that you can.
And this assumes someone is a couple is 65 when this originally this rule was kind of first proposed.
That there is a very high probability of not outliving your money over a period of 30 years in retirement. So in your scenario, if you're 65, 50-50 portfolio, half bonds, half stocks, you can take, the article uses $1 million. I think it's a nice number to use because it's nice and round. It's easy to figure out. Math. But whatever your number is that you have saved up, that you could take in this example, $40,000 in the first year, And if inflation was 2% again, maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't.
Yeah.
But you could give yourself the 2% raise. So year two is $40,800 and so on, that you have a very high probability and confidence that your money would not run out. That's the old rule. And a lot of people followed that successfully, but I guess there's some feelings out there, and the article talks about it, that the past returns may not be as favorable in the future. And so maybe that 4% rule, and inflation may be higher. So there may be more pressure on this 4% rule.
Well, as you think about the last decade, interest rates have been lower when it comes to the bond side of it. And there certainly are periods of time when stocks don't perform as high as a historical average. And I think the concern is that if we go into a period where stocks perform at a slightly understated rate of return relative to that 10% kind of long-term average, you could have both have received less income for part of that time and potentially less equity return. And therefore, and you pointed inflation, you have all these different variables, but, should one maybe look to a lower rate of withdrawal as the game plan? And there's also times people look to say, oh, no, take 4%, but as your portfolio changes in value, readjust your spending to 4% of that. And so if it goes up, you get more. If it goes down, you get less. That's another kind of take on this, and not initially what it was originally intended, but maybe that's another way to do it. But how many people are generally that flexible about their spending? The article made a great point that in reality, people don't limit themselves to that because they buy a car and, oh, I took more, or, they have some occasions where they don't rigidly follow the parameters of this permitted structure.
Right.
I mean, that can change.
Life's more dynamic than just stagnant numbers, right?
Yeah.
Right. One thing that I think, and you've talked about on the show before, and it's not in the article, but I think it's a good practice, and that is to have we like to use the word bucket, but a separate account with liquidity. Maybe it's a money market account, just somewhere that's not exposed to the markets. And therefore, if you're taking withdrawals from your retirement savings and if the market's up, if it's roaring high and everything's good, and you feel like I should take it off the top of my investments, fine. But if it's the opposite, if it's in a correction or you're just not comfortable, you can withdraw from your liquidity bucket.
Right.
And not have to take those funds out of your investments, which, in essence would be at a loss just for
a bad timing kind of
bad timing. So that's another strategy that's not in the article, but I think it's prudent to have, and it gives you just another layer of protection from taking money. If you had retired, say, at the beginning of 2022, and you were thinking about taking, your 4%, say it's $40,000, you might not have been comfortable taking it at some of the levels of the market last year. But if you had the liquidity bucket and you could take from there, and maybe now be replacing that, for example.
Yeah. So it's viable. And we talked about at another occasion the concept of using a reverse mortgage as that liquidity bucket. I've had other people that come in and have had a home equity line of credit in lieu of that liquidity bucket. These are viable, but not my preferred way to deal with it, because you got to keep in mind it's still debt. And, in the case of the reverse mortgage, arguably, okay, you can pay it back and it's not affecting your cash flow, but home equity line of credit will affect your cash flow now more than it did a year ago when interest rates were much lower.
Right.
And I got to stop probably have to start adjusting when I say a year ago. It's like the moving target now. So, but anyway, you know what I mean? So in any case, Yeah, we like that idea of having the buckets and a liquidity reserve, a graduated path to if I need funds where I might draw from, where there's people don't always have the same risk tolerance, and there might be certain parts of your portfolio you think, oh, that Roth IRA, I'm really going to leave that a long time, or whatever. I'm fill in the blank with whatever you would say.
That's
That's
what I
money.
would say, actually.
Yeah, but that's money I'm not going to touch.
Right.
Okay, great. Well, you might tolerate more volatility and more risk with that part of the portfolio, so you extend the risk there. There might be another part of the portfolio. Sometimes it's your taxable, trust, joint account, whatever it might be, that you say, well, I want more liquidity for that. I want more access to this. I want that to be more stable. I heard a recent podcast, Jeff, where they're making the point that we're returning to a time where asset placement can have merit again. There's been a period of time where interest rates were low, and it just didn't really matter whether you put your stocks in your IRA or your trust, kind of mindset. Maybe now we're at a point where we have to re-examine some of those assumptions, but we generally find that people, when they need liquidity, they don't want to have to pay a tax to get at it for their income tax if they're, IRA money.
Right.
So oftentimes we think of the way we might structure things with that in mind for people in retirement. But there is a good argument to say, from a tax strategy point of view, gee, maybe if I kept my income producing assets in the IRA, 401k, fill in the blank,
Sure. Yep.
that I only pay tax on the portion I actually spend or have to take out if I have distribution requirements. But if I have my stocks in my taxable account, my individual joint trust, whatever, I get capital gains treatment, which is better.
Typically lower than your income tax rate, right?
Yeah. So there's that argument that, gee, maybe I should structure where my investments are based on their tax status. The reality, of course, is not everyone has the perfect allocation across how much they have in their IRAs versus how much they have in their non-IRA type money to have the proper allocation exactly the way they want it, that kind of thing. But in any case, there's more than one way to go about it. But I think generally, it's probably prudent to think in terms of having these kinds of segmentations, however you structure it. But we generally think the liquidity, the accessible money, not in a taxed setting, or like an IRA type setting, tax deferred setting, but rather in somewhere where I could get it and use it if I need it, without a big tax event.
Yep. One of the things I think is most helpful to our clients when they come in initially, or when we're doing a review, is we use a software program and go through their investments and update all the information and so forth. But at the end of it, we're actually giving them projections and an actual score, whether or not their assets are going to survive their life expectancy, and we can be dynamic about that, meaning changing the life expectancy number, pushing it out, or dealing with long-term care issues, or major purchases. And when we do that, one of two things happens. It's either a low score, and we have to have a kind of that heart-to-heart, like, this is not a favorable number. There's some things that we should do to make sure that you're
more money in or less money out, kind of.
Right.
Conversation.
Yep. Or, as many of the cases with our clients, they have a great score. Some of them have 100%. And so it gives them, back to this 4%, and how do I figure out how much to take? It gives them permission to say, okay, I can take whatever the number is. Sometimes it's a lot more than 4%, depending on their situation. Yes, you can take, say, for example, 6%, and you're going to be all right. You can live to this age, and this is your likely end number as your legacy. So, and we'll check it next year too, and make sure you stay on course. But it gives it gives those people who are really concerned about running out of money or not having enough for a legacy or whatever it is, permission to live a life that they have earned. They've saved for it, and it's permission. And it's
really an important dynamic that you're right. It's this doing this kind of homework, so to speak, or
right.
Financial planning can really help you to know either are we on a path that is sustainable, or are we permitted, to your point, permission?
Yeah.
We have room to take more without burden or being a burden to next generation because we'd run out or that kind of thing. It's really important to have
live that life that you have built. Live it with a peace of mind and enjoyment, whether that means you're giving money away or traveling the world or whatever it means to you. You've earned it. You've prepared for it. Take it.
I think a lot of times people wonder about the logistics of, okay, we've got this sort of game plan. How do I do it? Just the logistics of, well, we're going to set up a direct deposit. And sometimes it may be, your income cash flow is enough to meet the need. But other times it's, we'll have a planned schedule of, meeting your needs. We'll have some liquidity, and then every so often we'll rebalance, that kind of thing, or whatever the logistics are. Oftentimes it's easier than people imagine sometimes.
It is, and it takes, some counsel and some time for people to get there. But when they're there, it's a whole different retirement in this case for them. It's much more enjoyable and peaceful.
Jeff, I don't know if we covered everything on this article. We certainly could come back to it another time. There was a lot in here, and it was really some great topics, some insights. And I know you had some other information about tax-related issues. We'll definitely save for another week. Let me remind everybody one more time, if you would like to benefit from our upcoming talk, this is your last chance because it's coming up on Tuesday, June 6th at 9 to 11 a.m. You can sign up on our website, amrfinancial.com. Understanding Social Security and Medicare is the topic. Great presenters, very educational, and I think you'll benefit from it. If you have the opportunity, if you're nearing retirement or on the cusp of this, it'd be very useful. Do check it out and join us by registering at amrfinancial.com, or you can send us a text, 508-915-3700, and let us know seminar, and then mention how many people in your party. You can always give us a call, whether it's for the seminar or any aspect of your planning. Please do reach out to us at 508-771-8900 or toll free 866-771-8901, as well as, again, check out our website, amrfinancial.com. Jeff, thanks so much for your involvement in the show this week, co-hosting, co-piloting with me.
You're very welcome.
And for all of our listeners, thank you for being with us. Until next week, keep striving for something more.
You're listening to Something More with Chris Boyd, Financial Talk Show.
Asset Management Resources, LLC, and J. Christopher Boyd, CFP, provide investment advice on an individual basis to clients only. Proper advice depends on a complete analysis of all facts and circumstances. The information given on this program is in the nature of general financial comments and cannot be relied upon as pertaining to your specific situation. AMR, LLC cannot guarantee that using the information from this show will generate profits or ensure freedom from loss. Listeners should consult their own financial advisors or conduct their own due diligence before making any financial decisions.